On March 9th, 2022, Joe Biden signed Executive Order number 14067. What's most concerning about that executive order was Section 4, basically allowing the use of a central bank digital currency and certain controls that would be implemented or allowed with that central bank digital currency known as the CBDC. Representative Stephen F. Lynch introduced H.R. 7231 shortly thereafter, the Electronic Currency and Secure Hardware Act, which then put the march forward by the U.S. Treasury to develop a CBDC. What kind of effects will CBDC have on us? Will it be good or will it be bad? Well, the example we have, the role models we have are North Korea and China. Let's talk about that today at DeFi IoT. As we talked about in the beginning of this video, on March 9, 2022, an executive order was signed by Joe Biden. Not anything was passed in Congress. Didn't go through the proper channels of creating law and passing law. Congress creates law. The Senate confirms whether that law is in line with the Constitution, and then the president would sign that into law. That's the normal process. Now we hardly see that process going forward. We hardly ever hear of Joe Biden or rejecting a law, for example, the current president. And this is something that executive orders were done from Obama, even to Trump, and now to Biden. Once one started, one used it again to then counter what the other one did, and now this one's being used to counter what Trump had done, right? Or undone, to redo, if you will. I don't want to get into that today. What I want to get into is what a central bank digital currency means to us and how that will affect our freedoms and the market of where cryptocurrency will fall into this, especially with all these regulations coming down. I mentioned in other videos before here that you can find that the CBDC or cryptocurrencies are a direct threat to the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. Now, don't confuse yourself. A cryptocurrency is not a CBDC. I was listening to Mark Moss yesterday in a seminar he had, and he was talking about a digital currency being like a fiat currency, and this has nothing to do with that. And a cryptocurrency looking somewhat like a CBDC, and that's not true. Now, they may use blockchain for that cryptocurrency, for that digital currency. Let me clarify. They may use blockchain to create a central bank digital currency, but that's a centralized blockchain. Very, very different than the idea that Satoshi Nakamoto or the group or whoever they were created when they created Bitcoin. That was to be maintained decentralized. There are other decentralized cryptocurrencies out there, Litecoin, for example, amongst others, that still maintain that freedom of centralization. Now, when you centralize it, you make it no different than the current monetary system, and actually more dangerous because it's more controllable from behind the scenes, and you can pre-program a software or even bots to maintain a software that would then have control over us and can be the excuse or scapegoat for the governments and or third parties like the California DMV is doing now, contracting Tesla's blockchain to maintain our DMV vehicle registrations on an NFT. So let's talk a bit today, part one, and how that could affect us, the CBDC, why we should be concerned about a central bank digital currency, understanding it's not a cryptocurrency. Yes, it could come out on a blockchain, and I think, very likely it will come out on a blockchain with as much support as centralized blockchains are getting from these really, really left-leaning states like California, for example. So how will that affect us? Backing up. The executive order was signed. Then moving forward, the issuance from the Fed to develop pilot programs for a CBDC. When Representative Lynch introduced Bill H.R. 7231, the Electronic Currency and Secure Hardware Act, that marched for the U.S. Treasury to develop a CBDC. So you have two. Remember, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury are completely separate from each other, right? The U.S. Treasury falls under the government. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be something that's independent, yet it's actually run by the government. In other words, the government can come in and fire everybody and say, we're investing everybody for fraud here and clean house and change people out. So they at the end of the day, the government still has control of the Federal Reserve. Don't think that they don't. What I want to go into, I got a few notes here I want to jump into. It says, a CBDC will not allow the following. Let's go through some of these. Or in other words, it will allow the government to then impede on the following freedoms we know. For example, the purchase of gasoline or oil. So to move forward the environmental acts that they're now putting before us or forcing us into, a CBDC would help them control that. It would force electric car purchases. If you don't buy an electric car, you can be fined, and they don't have to come and collect it from you. They just deduct it from your account. By the way, a central bank digital currency is run by the central bank. That's the Federal Reserve. Okay, it's not run by the small banks. They'll disappear for the most part. And that's why you're seeing pilot programs, and I'll get into that in a minute, that are being rolled out by Citibank, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America in efforts to lock themselves in to offer Zelle, as the new replacement to the dollar. And this is here. This is now. This is not anything in the future. This is upon us. Over 100 countries are rolling out or experimenting or planning to roll out a central bank digital currency, with many of them, like 9 or 10 countries, rolling them out this year. China started last year, China and India. You have many more countries, including Brazil, to roll out, planned rollouts this year. Going back to what a CBDC can control, it can force vaccinations of any type. Water usage, control your water usage. Meat consumption, forcing us to use plant-based foods. Can limit our travel. It can stop purchasing certain items, such as guns and ammo, or 3D printers, or anything that when you put into a 3D printer to build your own guns, or even the purchases of products to make ammunition. Even survival supplies, such as food storage. Your social credit score abuses. That's going to be rolling out too, along with the digital ID. That will come. In order to have a central bank digital currency, you're going to have a digital ID, right? That won't be a digital physical driver's license or a government issued ID anymore. That will be something that's going to be an NFT, or non-fungible token, that you'll pull up into your smartphone, which means you're going to have a smartphone which is traceable, and it's very traceable, so the government will know where all your spending is and know where you are at all times, just as the model exists in China and North Korea today. Also, with that social credit score abuses, you can also be controlled by the candidates that you donate to or support. They may allow or not allow. And that could actually be, depending on who you support, you get fined for supporting. Basically, a central bank digital currency would allow a near complete control over you. So, CBDC pilot programs, where are they taking place at? And how long have they been taking place? Well, they've been taking place for a while. One of the reasons why Bitcoin was created in 2009, after the crash in 2008, was that there was a feeling by Satoshi Nakamoto that that crash was caused by the government. Now, evidence shows that 2008 was influenced by our government, and our government did have a play in that. Now, I don't know if it was just U.S. government or a global governments, or global, what they call governments now, elites like the World Economic Forum. There's also some evidence leading to they were also had a play in the 2008 crash. And then the blame was obviously put on these private bankers, right? Amongst other small factors. But the bottom line was that the crash in 2008 caused certain things to take place. For example, like the FDIC insurance program, where they will no longer now bail out banks, but the banks will use our monies that are invested in the banks to actually bail out banks from here going forward. So your money's not safe in a bank. So don't put it in a bank. Holding money, holding dollars, you're really losing more than 20% a year. If you really look at the old CPI index and look at how they measure it and go back and use the old CPI index to measure inflation, you'll see the rate of inflation is over 20%. It's not 6, 7, 8%. That's to keep things down. That's a lie that they're telling us. Where are pilot programs taking place? Well, recently the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco has been working on a pilot program. We'll get more into that in another video. As well as you got major bankers, as I've mentioned before, with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the whole Zelle-Cash. You walk in, you'll see Zelle-Cash, right, being advertised. And they just completed a pilot program with our actual Federal Reserve, okay? MIT is in partnership with the Federal Reserve for a CBDC. This is known as the Hamilton Project, or Project Hamilton. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corp, which basically clears things up for the stocks and bonds and so forth, is called Project Lithium. That is also areas where they're working on CBDCs. That's U.S. based, and there's more. There's not just that. The U.S. is considering which direction they're going to go. It's not if, it's when. So this is what a CBDC will do, or have the potential to do, and we've seen the abuses of it in China. And in North Korea, you don't hear much about it because not much is able to get out. More is able to get out in China because it's so big, and more people were able to get things out, and had a lot of American influence there before that could come out and tell us what was there. Now, North Korea never allowed that. So we don't see a lot coming out of North Korea unless you get somebody that is able to get out and survive and feels they can tell the story. Here's the thing. You'll be canceled out if you don't conform. And living in the cities is where their target's going to be. And the idea is going to be your convenience will be in the cities. Your convenience are going to be on Amazon and so forth. And I know it's hard to refuse that. I know where I live, it's much easier to go on Amazon. And it's more difficult to go and sort of find things independently because Amazon has everything there. They'll bring it to your home, etc. Well, that's only going to get better with the rollout of the metaverse. So where do we invest in 2023? Well, I'm going to do another video today, right after this, and put it out tomorrow. So subscribe, hit the like button, please, hit that bell. So when our videos come out, you get it. And I'm going to tell you where we're looking at based off of experience and of experts that we've studied and listened to. And I spent a lot of time doing research before I share it with you. I just try to take everything, digest it all, and regurgitate it back out to you in a simple, shorter form. CBDCs are not a good thing for us, and we should not be supporting them, but convenience will be our temptation going forward. Be aware of those, please. Now, I'm going to do another video, you'll see tomorrow, that's going to tell you where you can protect yourself and how you should protect yourself and where to invest going forward. DeFi IoT. Please subscribe, like. We'll see you in the next video.